What if you don't have an overthinking problem? You actually have a trust problem. I know for me that when I'm stressed out, I'm in my head, I'm overwhelmed, the last thing that I'm doing is I'm trusting in myself. And if this hits home for you and you're tired of the going back and forth in your mind trying to figure out how to solve your problems by overthinking, over planning, overdoing, then this video might be for you. A lot of times when we're overthinking, we take it personal and we feel like that we can't think through the situation or figure out the problem, and it almost feels like an insult to our intelligence. But this has nothing to do with intelligence, because when I'm overthinking, I'm actually in a lack of trust. And it's not hard to get into these spots. Just last week, I had something happen, a full week. I had a bunch of stuff going on at work. I had a full list of things to do at home. I want to show up. I want to be a dad. I want to be a husband. I want to be fully present when I get home. But that overwhelm from all the things that I was thinking about doing and I had going on in my mind was overwhelming me. It was overwhelming my thoughts. It was overwhelming my brain. And the more and more that I thought about what I had to do or that I had to figure out how to do it, the more stress that was coming on. So you can probably relate to this, because the mind, when we're overthinking, can only do so much. There's only so much of the problem it can solve. And it's the same reason why when we're planning, we want to be able to plan and then let go and let the plan unfold. But our minds just think and think and think and try to solve a problem that isn't actually really a problem. And the crazy thing was that when that overwhelm and stress subsided the other week, it was really just when I remembered that I had gone through all this before. I've even dealt with more difficult things in the past. And when I remembered all of that, I was able to trust myself and going back to a place in my mind where I recognized that I had the capability of working through anything, which in reality wasn't much at all. And then I could feel my body relax. I was assured. I was actually even more focused and more energized, especially going into the next day. And the problem for most people is that when you're thinking, you're way more in your head than you realize. You're thinking too much. You're spending too much energy in your mind. You're going to a place where you're trying to fix your problem with your thoughts that lead to strategies, that lead to outcomes that haven't even happened yet. But it's not even your thoughts that are the problem. It's actually just your relationship to your thoughts. And when we're talking about trust, unlike the mind where it needs evidence and proof to be shown what to focus on, when we're trusting ourselves and we're trusting reality, it's just a transfer of consciousness and awareness. There's nothing to do there. And what it does is it allows us to step into a place where we're actually automatically assured. And that place of trust is a deeper sense of knowing. And since the mind thinks that it's in control, that overthinking is disguised as a form of logical processing. So we're going to our analytical mind to try to solve an issue or to, shorten a to-do list or to, manage a project. And we mistakenly identify that activity as logic, but it's actually covering up for a tremendous amount of, usually it's fear or some type of negative emotion. And for the sake of example for this video, we're going to talk in terms of fear and anxiety. So what am I afraid of? A fear of letting go, a fear of being wrong, a fear of missing something, a fear of being incorrect, a fear that if I stop managing all of this, it'll stop or it'll fall apart. And since our minds can only do typically one thing, which is to analyze and figure out and control, it's not going to occur to your mind when you're in a space of stress and overwhelm and anxiety to let go and to trust, because that's not the mind's job. As an example, think of the guy who can't stop thinking at work. Even when he's home, it's all he thinks about. And the more that he thinks, the more that he can't let go. But it's typically when he reconnects with what's important to him, his family, when he's at home, he's spending time with his kids, that he remembers what's actually going on in reality. So it's that reconnection with reality and trusting reality instead of going back into that place in our minds that's telling us to try to get more control. And we might even mistake trust as a form of weakness or letting go. And maybe that's what our mind tells us, but in reality, we actually have more positive control and ownership around the things that we value and we trust what's going on, instead of trying to strangle it with our thoughts and analyzing things to death. So naturally, when we're a place of trusting and going with the flow, being more accepting of reality, we're going to notice things like we're going to sleep better, our stress is going to be reduced, we're not going to have the racing thoughts, we're going to be a lot more opened up to connecting and to doing the other things that we value. The mind thinks that control is the form of how we gain safety. But actual safety doesn't come from control. It comes from connecting and connecting with reality. The more you chase certainty through control, the more anxiety you're going to experience. So here's a short framework that you can practice. And you can do this at any time, although I'd recommend doing it obviously not when you're driving or when you're in the middle of something that needs your direct attention. It's basically a framework of we're going to notice, we're going to pause with a intentional breath, and then we're going to trust. So noticing what's going on in my head. So what are my thoughts? What do I notice about my feelings? Just paying attention. No need to judge. No need to overanalyze. So we're just drawing our attention and our awareness into those experiences in our body, into the thoughts that are going on in our head, whatever sensations might come up as well. And then we're going to breathe into that awareness. I'm going to take a mindful and deep breath into my body, through my nose, pause, fully exhale out of my mouth. And then we could ask a question. What if I didn't have to figure this all out right now? What would happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? Or where in my life have I experienced this before? Or when in my life? What was the result? Just by noticing what's coming up as you do that, those quick 3 steps, might take around like 15 to 20 seconds. But that is actually the shift. And you may not feel a complete relief, but that's trust showing up. Our minds might be seeking outcomes, but really if you ask yourself in the middle of overwhelm or stress, what you really want is a form of clarity and reassurance. The thing that we're wanting is to be able to see clearly, is to be able to understand what's going on with clarity. But we're not getting clarity from changing our thoughts necessarily, or getting rid of our thoughts. So in those ways, clarity doesn't come from fixing our thoughts. And this sounds counterintuitive to the mind, but clarity can only come from being present in the moment. We can't have any clarity if we're lost in our head, or we're getting caught up in the overwhelm and all of those stressful thoughts, the things that we're trying to do to figure out how to reach that perceived outcome. So with that exercise, what that's showing us is that by being in the present moment, that's actually where we find that clarity to begin to understand what's going on. We're able to trust, we're able to know that there's another side to those thoughts. And granted, it's not going to necessarily solve our problem or even our entire, stress, overwhelm, but it does show us that there's another side to our thinking. Like there's another aspect to our mental, noise and disruption that can provide a way to make the situation better. And that's the clarity we're looking for. You've probably heard the saying that so far you've survived everything that life has given you. And it's true, because there's nothing that you haven't been able to work through, overcome, learn from, any of those things. So you've always been able to survive. And so we're just cueing the mind back into reality. Yeah, things might be overwhelming and stressful. And again, it's not about getting rid of that or telling yourself that it's off, or that you're telling yourself that it's not true. But we're just providing the mind an understanding of the other side of that reality. So of course there's a possibility that exists, and it's a likely possibility that everything's going to be fine. It always has been. All this reminds me of running a race. And if you ever run a longer distance race, however long you consider a long distance, you know that if you go all out, if you put all of your energy into trying to get to the outcome, which is the finish line, you're probably going to burn out and you're not going to run the race in the best way that you can. So if you've ever done any type of competitive racing, you know that there has to be some level of training and pacing going on. Our mind is trying in the ways that it can to get to that outcome without us realizing a greater sense of awareness of like what's going on, back to the clarity. Without that, we don't realize that we don't want to get to the outcome as quick as possible. We want to do it in a way that makes the most sense for us. So with racing, you got to consider how much energy you have, how much you've trained, how your breathing's going, your heart rate, of course. And then you're assessing as you're going, but you're taking all those things into consideration. You're not just going as hard as you can. But when we're having those stressful, overwhelming thoughts, we're in anxiety, our mind is going as hard as it can. When we're stepping into a place of trust, into the present moment, into understanding the full reality of what's going on, so that we're not overwhelmed, right? We're not stressed out, we're not anxious. It's not that we're not paying attention or we're stopping doing anything. Like I'm not just sitting here and just trusting that everything's going to happen on its own. I'm in cooperation with what's going on around me, right? I'm paying attention. I'm vigilant. I'm not hyper vigilant. So I can react in kind. I can react appropriately. If there's a task to be done, I do the task. I don't stress out about the task. I just do the task. I get as much done as I possibly can. I'm also paying attention to my body. Is it time to rest? Is it time to eat? Is it time to take a break? I can't be aware of that reality and how to react with the actual problem and situation going on if I'm locked into only the outcome that I want to have happen. I have to be in some level of cooperation with what's going on with me and my body, like my actual nervous system, because it is existing in the present moment, right? Like my mind is focused on what's happening tomorrow or at some point in the future. And I got to also be paying attention with what's going on around me, right? So that I can react in an appropriate way, so I can live my life. And the mind's going to look at this like all or nothing. It's going to be like all the way, analyze, stress out, overwhelm, or it's going to be like, oh, disassociate, do nothing, stall, tune out, zone out. And really we want to be in coordinates and cooperation with all the things that are going on in the present moment, not only outside me, but also what's going on in my body. And trust starts in the body. It's not in the mind. It starts in the present moment. It's in your breathing. It's in relaxing into the moment, right? And again, relaxing doesn't mean that I'm giving up or that I'm disassociating, but it's moving into a place of acceptance so that I can be effective, like so that I can be living my life, so that I can be an attentive dad and husband, employee, whatever role that I'm doing in that moment. And the thing is that we've always taught that to be in control, we have to think. I mean, think about how much that's conditioned into us as kids, right? From saying the right thing, to behaving the right way, to having the right answers, academics, fitting in, right? So we become overly reliant on our analytical mind, especially if you're an analytical person. This is going to have the most impact to you because that's just how you're used to operating. But actually what we're desiring isn't more control, although that's what our thinking is telling us. We want more clarity, because that allows us to be more engaged with what matters to us in that moment, living life, dealing with things as they come. So as I'm using the word relax, I'm actually using that synonymously with surrender. I don't mean this to mean giving up, but that by that relaxation, returning to the present moment, that's actually where we find the clarity of thought. It's actually where we find that space of clarity, that awareness, that grounded presence where we're in the present moment, we're thinking clearly, making good decisions, not distracted. And this is one of the most powerful things you can do to regulate your nervous system, regain control of your mood, regain control of your stress levels, your overwhelm, is to remember that you're actually not benefiting at all by staying in your mind and overthinking and overanalyzing your problems, being stressed out, trying to get to an outcome. It's actually not what you want. And to be able to see the other side of it, even if it's just through a practice, is so helpful and will benefit you in so many ways. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope that you give some of these practices a try. Hey, my name is John. I'm a coach. I'm a therapist. If you want to learn more about how this can impact your life and you want to go deeper into these practices, I'll leave a link in the video that will explain how you can join my men's community, where there's a bunch of guys in there dealing with the same things, trying to improve their life in the same ways that you are. I also have limited spots for one-on-one coaching slots to work with me on a more up close and individual level. So I'll leave that stuff in the comments as well. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.